The greatest revolution is to fall in love with your own existence. Not with your achievements, not with your potential, not with the version of you that you are still working toward. With this, exactly as it is, right now. And I know how simple that sounds. Almost too simple. Because we're used to believing that the important things in life have to be difficult. We need a goal, a challenge, problem to solve, a version of ourselves to become. We need to improve, to achieve, to become more attractive, more successful, more disciplined, more intelligent, more spiritual, more impressive. And somewhere in the middle of all this becoming, we quietly stop living as the person we already are. We start treating the present version of ourselves like a temporary draft, something unfinished, something that will finally become worthy of love later, after the weight is lost, after the money is made, after the career is established, after the relationship arrives, after the confidence appears, after the trauma is healed, after the mind becomes quiet, after we become the person we've been imagining. And perhaps the strangest thing is this: you can spend your entire life improving yourself, while secretly believing that the person you're improving is not good enough. That is the trap. And most people don't even realize they're inside it. Think about the way you talk to yourself. You might not say it directly. You might never look in the mirror and say, "I am not enough." Instead, it sounds much more sophisticated. "I just need to work harder. I need to become more disciplined. I need to fix my mindset. I need to become confident. I need to get my life together. I need to become successful. I need to heal. I need to become a better version of myself." None of these statements are necessarily wrong. Growth is beautiful. Discipline is valuable. Healing matters. Learning matters. Improvement matters. The problem is not becoming better. The problem is believing you must become better before you are allowed to appreciate being alive. That's a completely different thing. You can improve yourself because you love yourself. Or you can improve yourself because you secretly hate the person you currently are. From the outside, these two people may look identical. Both go to the gym. Both study. Both meditate. Both work hard. Both build businesses. Both pursue their goals. But internally, they are living completely different lives. One is building. The other is running away. Imagine two people climbing a mountain. The first person looks around while climbing. They notice the trees, the sky, the wind, the changing landscape. They enjoy becoming stronger. They have somewhere they want to go, but they are not ashamed of where they currently stand. The second person is climbing because they cannot stand being at the bottom. Every step is an escape. They look upward constantly. They hate their current position. They compare themselves with people ahead. And every time they stop, they feel worthless. They think, "I'm still not there. I'm still behind. I'm still not enough." Eventually they reach the top. And for a moment, they feel amazing. They made it. But then they look toward another mountain. And the mind says, "That's the one." So they start climbing again. Another mountain. Another goal. Another identity. Another future. Another version of themselves. And the strange thing is, they never actually hated the mountain. They hated the person they believed they were while climbing it. This is how self-improvement can become another form of self-rejection. You start with something healthy. "I want to grow." Then slowly it becomes, "I need to change." Then, "I cannot accept myself like this." Then, "I'll finally be happy when I become someone else." And now the project is no longer growth. It's escape. You are using your future self as a place to hide from your present self. And that future self always stays one step ahead, because the mind is incredibly good at moving the finish line. You lose 10 kilograms. Now you need to build muscle. You build muscle. Now you need better clothes. You get better clothes. Now you need more money. You make more money. Now you need status. You gain status. Now you need someone to love you. You find someone. Now you need to make sure they never leave. And eventually you realize you've spent years negotiating with life. Give me this, and then I'll finally allow myself to feel okay. But life never signed that agreement. There is something almost absurd about the way we treat ourselves. Imagine meeting a child, a completely ordinary child. They don't have a perfect body. They don't have a career. They haven't accomplished anything impressive. They don't have 1 million followers. They haven't built a successful company. They don't have a 5-year plan. And yet, they can sit in the sunlight and be completely absorbed by it. They can laugh because something is funny. They can run because they feel like running. They can stare at an insect for 10 minutes. They can become fascinated by a puddle. They don't constantly ask, "Am I maximizing my potential right now?" They simply exist. And at some point, we train that out of ourselves. We teach the child that existence isn't enough. You get praised when you perform. You get approval when you succeed. You get attention when you achieve. You get compared. You get ranked. You get evaluated. And eventually you learn the lesson. Being me is not enough. I need to become something. That lesson can go very deep. So deep that you may forget you ever learned it. You just assume it's reality. And this is why the idea of falling in love with your own existence can feel almost offensive to the modern mind. Because we're constantly being told that there is something wrong with us. Your body needs improvement. Your productivity needs improvement. Your social life needs improvement. Your career needs improvement. Your relationships need improvement. Your appearance needs improvement. Your mindset needs improvement. Your lifestyle needs improvement. And there are entire industries built around keeping you dissatisfied. Because dissatisfaction is incredibly profitable. If you believe you're already enough, you become much harder to sell to. But if you believe you're missing something, there will always be something to buy. Another course, another product, another transformation, another identity, another promise. Become the person you've always wanted to be. And there's nothing inherently wrong with any of these things. The danger is when you stop asking, "Do I actually want this?" and start asking, "Will this finally make me enough?" Consider your relationship with your appearance. You look at yourself in the mirror. Maybe you notice something you don't like. That's normal. You decide to exercise. Good. You eat better. Good. You take care of yourself. Good. But notice the difference between, "I want to take care of this body because I value it," and "I hate this body, so I need to transform it before I can respect myself." The first comes from love. The second comes from war. And you can build an impressive body while still being at war with yourself. You can become incredibly attractive and still feel ugly. You can become successful and still feel like a failure. You can become admired and still feel invisible. Because the external transformation doesn't automatically change the internal relationship. You can change the painting without changing the person looking at it. The same thing happens with achievement. Imagine someone who spends 10 years trying to become successful. They sacrifice sleep. They sacrifice relationships. They sacrifice experiences. They tell themselves, "One day I'll be proud of myself." Eventually they succeed. People congratulate them. Their name means something. They have money. They have recognition. And then one night, they're alone. And the question appears, why don't I feel the way I thought I would? Because achievement answered the question, can I accomplish this? But it never answered, am I worthy of existing? No achievement can permanently answer that question. Because worth isn't a score. It isn't a number. It isn't a trophy. It isn't a social ranking. You don't become more alive because you succeeded. You were already alive before the achievement. That is the part we keep forgetting. And then there is an even deeper trap. Spirituality. You might think, "Fine, I'll stop chasing material success. So you begin meditating. You read philosophy. You study consciousness. You practice yoga. You learn about Buddhism. You read about enlightenment. You try to become peaceful. You try to become detached. You try to become awakened. And slowly, spirituality itself becomes another achievement. Now you have a new identity. I'm becoming enlightened. I'm more conscious than I used to be. I'm working on myself.
I'm healing.
I'm transcending the ego. And the ego has somehow found a new costume. The self-improvement project has simply become more sophisticated. You are still saying, I'm not enough yet. You've just replaced successful with spiritual. This is why acceptance is so radical. Because acceptance doesn't give the mind another project. It says, stop, look at what is already here. Your breath, your body, your awareness, your imperfect life, your unfinished story, your unanswered questions, your fears, your hopes, your failures, your memories, your relationships, your ordinary Tuesday afternoon, this moment, before you turn it into a problem. Can you experience it without immediately asking how to improve it? That question is much harder than it sounds. Look at a sunset. A sunset doesn't need to prove anything. It doesn't become more beautiful because someone liked it on social media. It doesn't become less beautiful because nobody noticed. It doesn't think, I should have been brighter today. It doesn't compare itself to yesterday's sunset. It doesn't worry about whether tomorrow's sunset will be better. It simply happens. Light appears, colors change, the sky transforms, and then it disappears. There is no achievement,
No resume.
no performance, just existence. And somehow, we can look at that and call it beautiful. But when we look at ourselves, we immediately start negotiating. I would love myself if I looked different, if I had achieved more, if I was less anxious, if I was more confident, if I had made better choices. The sunset doesn't need to become something else to be beautiful. And neither do you. Now, this doesn't mean you should stop improving yourself. This distinction is incredibly important. Acceptance is not laziness. Acceptance is not giving up. Acceptance is not saying, I don't care what happens. It's saying, I don't need to hate where I am in order to move from here. You can want more. Without believing that what you have is worthless. You can want to become stronger without hating your current body. You can want a better career without believing your current life has no value. You can want a relationship without believing you're incomplete alone. You can want to heal without treating yourself like a broken object. You can have ambition without turning your existence into a problem that needs solving. That is the difference. Think about a gardener. A gardener doesn't look at a seed and scream, you're inadequate. They don't insult the seed for not being a tree. They understand that growth has its own timing. They give it soil, water, light, protection, and then they allow it to grow. Imagine treating yourself that way, not as a defective machine, not as a failed project, but as something alive, something developing, something that deserves care while it grows. You don't have to become the finished tree before you deserve sunlight. This changes the way you approach failure. If your identity depends on achievement, failure becomes an attack on your existence. You don't think, I failed at something. You think, I am a failure. That's a completely different statement. The first is information. The second is identity. And once you understand that distinction, failure becomes much less terrifying. You can lose. You can make mistakes. You can be rejected. You can choose badly. You can embarrass yourself. You can start over. And none of these things have the power to erase the basic fact that you exist. Your worth doesn't disappear because something went wrong. The same thing applies to rejection. Someone doesn't choose you, and suddenly your mind says, I'm not attractive enough. I'm not interesting enough. I'm not lovable. But what actually happened? One person made one decision at one moment under circumstances you don't fully know, and your mind turned that event into a verdict on your entire existence. That's the problem. We take events and turn them into identities. We take mistakes and turn them into definitions. We take opinions and turn them into truths. Acceptance means learning to separate what happened from the story you built around what happened. And this is where the revolution begins. Not with changing the world, not with changing everyone around you, not even with changing yourself. It begins with ending the argument, the endless internal argument with reality. I shouldn't be like this. My life should be different. I shouldn't have made that mistake. They shouldn't have treated me that way. I should be further ahead. I should feel happier. I should already know what I'm doing. Maybe all of those things would be better. But reality doesn't become different because you argue with it. The past doesn't negotiate. The present doesn't ask for permission. What happened, happened. What is here, is here. And acceptance is the moment you stop spending your energy trying to make reality apologize for being reality. Think about physical pain. When you're injured, one layer is the actual pain. Then sometimes another layer appears. I can't believe this is happening. This shouldn't be happening. Why me? I hate this. The physical pain may remain, but now you're suffering psychologically on top of it. Acceptance doesn't necessarily remove the pain. It removes the fight against the fact that the pain exists. The same thing happens emotionally. You feel sadness. Then you become angry that you're sad. You feel anxious. Then you become ashamed that you're anxious. You feel lonely. Then you judge yourself for being lonely. You feel lost. Then you tell yourself that you shouldn't be lost. Now you're suffering and fighting the fact that you're suffering. Acceptance interrupts that second layer. It says, this is what is happening right now. Not forever. Not as an identity. Just right now. And strangely, that can create room for change. Because you cannot transform something you refuse to see. If you hate your fear, you hide it. If you hate your insecurity, you disguise it. If you hate your sadness, you suppress it. If you hate your weakness, you pretend to be strong. But what you refuse to acknowledge continues operating underneath the surface. Acceptance brings it into the light. And once you can look at something without immediately trying to destroy it, you can understand it. You can work with it. You can change your relationship with it. So how do you actually practice this? Not as a philosophy, as something you can do tonight. Start incredibly small. The next time you notice yourself thinking, I should be different right now. Stop. Don't fight the thought. Just notice it. Then replace the question. Instead of, how do I become someone else? Ask, can I be here with myself as I am? Not forever. Not as an excuse. Just for this moment. Feel your feet. Notice your breathing. Look around the room. Hear the sounds around you. Notice the sensations in your body. And for a few seconds, don't improve anything. Don't solve anything. Don't evaluate anything. Just experience being alive. Then try something even harder. Look at yourself in the mirror. And don't immediately inspect. Don't search for flaws. Don't calculate what needs changing. Don't imagine how you'll look after 6 months of training. Just look. This is the face that has been with you through everything. The face that existed when you were a child. The face that was there during your worst day. The face that survived things you thought you couldn't survive. The face that will continue changing as you grow older. Look at it without asking it to become something else. That isn't narcissism. It is recognition. I am here, that's all. Then look at your life the same way. Maybe it isn't where you wanted it to be. Maybe you're behind. Maybe you've made mistakes. Maybe you're lonely. Maybe you're confused. Maybe you're not the person you imagined you would be by now. Don't immediately turn that into motivation. Just acknowledge it. This is where I am. Because you cannot start from where you wish you were. You can only start from where you are. And strangely, accepting where you are can be the beginning of finally moving. There is another powerful question you can ask yourself. If I knew I was already enough, what would I still want to do? Really think about that. If you didn't need achievement to prove your worth, would you still want that career? If you didn't need attention to prove you're attractive, would you still want to change your appearance? If you weren't trying to impress anyone, what would you spend your time doing? If you knew nobody was judging you, what would you create? If you knew you were already worthy of love, how differently would you approach relationships? This question separates desire from desperation. You may discover that many of your goals are genuine. That's beautiful. Keep them. But some goals may suddenly feel strangely empty. You weren't pursuing them because you loved them. You were pursuing them because you hoped they would finally make you love yourself. And that realization can change everything. You don't have to throw your ambitions away. You can keep the gym, keep the career, keep the business, keep studying, keep creating, keep traveling, keep improving. But now, you're doing it from a completely different place. You're not climbing because you hate the ground. You're climbing because you want to see what's at the top. You're not building because you are worthless. You're building because building is meaningful to you. You're not becoming better because you hate who you are. You're becoming because growth is one of the beautiful things life can do. That is healthy ambition. And perhaps this is what it means to fall in love with existence. It isn't waking up every morning and feeling euphoric. It isn't pretending everything is beautiful. It isn't forcing yourself to be positive. It isn't saying, everything happens for a reason. Sometimes life hurts. Sometimes people leave. Sometimes dreams fail. Sometimes your body gets tired. Sometimes you're lost. Sometimes you don't know what comes next. Falling in love with existence means something much quieter. It means you stop requiring life to be perfect before you allow yourself to participate in it. You can be sad and still love being alive. You can be confused and still love being alive. You can fail and still love being alive. You can have an unfinished life and still love being alive. A flower doesn't need to know where it's going. It doesn't need a 5-year plan. It doesn't ask whether it is reaching its full potential. It opens, it grows, it bends, it survives, it eventually withers, and we look at the entire process and call it life. Maybe we're not so different. Maybe we're not so different. Maybe the tragedy isn't that we haven't become everything we could be. Maybe the tragedy is that we spend so much time chasing what we could become that we never notice what we already are. And there is one final trap worth noticing. The mind can turn acceptance itself into another achievement. You might hear this video and think, okay, now I need to become someone who fully accepts themselves. And suddenly, you're failing at acceptance. You're comparing your current level of acceptance to some imaginary enlightened version of yourself. You're thinking, why am I still insecure? Why do I still compare myself? Why can't I just accept myself? And the cycle begins again. So don't turn acceptance into another mountain. You don't have to become perfect at accepting yourself. You simply notice the moments when you're fighting yourself and soften the fight. That's enough. Then tomorrow, you do it again. Not as a project, as a way of living. The greatest revolution may not be changing what you have. It may be changing your relationship with what you have. The same room can feel different. The same body, the same job, the same face, the same life. Nothing outside necessarily needs to change first. Something inside changes, and suddenly the experience of everything changes with it. You stop asking, is this enough? And start asking, can I actually experience this? You stop asking, who do I need to become? And start asking, Who am I right now? You stop asking, how can I escape this moment? And start asking, what is this moment asking me to notice? Those are completely different questions. And different questions create different lives. So tonight, before you go searching for another answer, before you open another self-improvement video, before you make another plan to fix yourself, just stop, look around. You are here. You are breathing. You are experiencing something. Maybe your life isn't what you imagined. Maybe you're still figuring things out. Maybe there are things you desperately want to change. That's okay. You don't have to deny any of it. But for one moment, stop treating your current existence like a mistake. You don't have to earn the right to be here. You don't have to become extraordinary before your ordinary moments become valuable. You don't have to reach some imaginary future version of yourself before you are allowed to appreciate the person standing here now. The sunset doesn't wait until it becomes perfect. The ocean doesn't apologize for its waves. The tree doesn't hate itself for being a seed. Life doesn't ask permission to be alive. Simply is, and so are you. Not the future you. Not the successful you. Not the healed you. Not the confident you. Not the perfect you. You, this version. With the mistakes. With the uncertainty. With the unfinished parts. With everything you are still learning. This is the only version of you that has ever existed. And this moment is the only moment you will ever actually have. So maybe the revolution isn't becoming someone new. Maybe it is finally stopping the war against who you already are. Not giving up. Not becoming passive. Not abandoning growth. But growing without hatred. Changing without rejection. Dreaming without desperation. And living without constantly asking life to prove that you are worthy of it. Because perhaps you were waiting for your achievements to give you permission to love yourself. Perhaps you were waiting for someone else to tell you that you were enough. Perhaps you were waiting for the perfect version of yourself to finally arrive. But look carefully. The person you've been waiting for has never needed to arrive. You are already here. And maybe, for the first time, that's enough.